Okay, so let's get into this video here of Crazy Bone.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this
I don't. I'm not sure who this dude is over here. I do like his fucking ad libs. Crazy. Mm-hmm. Great. Oh, god damn it. Never mind. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, let's move on.
This was the meeting. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there.
Right.
Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting as
By the way, he also got an East Cleveland education, so don't fault the guy. He is reading off of a laptop. Busy Bone is always telling stories like this on his channel. He's fucking hilarious. I gotta fuck with Busy Bone.
many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip hop.
Talk to him.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign the confidentiality agreement preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group
That's right.
collected all the agreements from us. So now it's going to get
Okay.
to the good part because the meeting about to start.
Talk to him, G.
It says,
Talk to him, G.
quickly after the meeting began, hold on one second.
Get your popcorn, y'all.
Popcorn, get
He's
your
like-
pistol. No, it's like-
Real.
He's
Quickly
the
after
hype
this
man of
meeting
this
began,
interview.
One of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this
Sketch.
point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable.
I'm sure he did. It's like a non-disclosure, an NDA, and then fucking some dude who only introduces himself as his first name.
And the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember
Hey there. Let's go back. This. What did you say? Crazy Bone.
investments in prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become solid investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons.
Say, huh? Could you imagine? Listen, we want to make you guys a lot of money. And all you got to do is just keep talking how you're talking. Maybe add in a little more bloodshed, maybe a little more robbery, because you also, by helping us, we want to help you. You also get a share in the profit from these private prisons that are locking up your fans who are inspired by your words to go out and be gangster. Mo murder, mo murder, mo murder.
Immediately, silence came over the room.
Help us help you. What the fuck's up with this video? This is pissing me off.
You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men
Chaotic.
who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague, who opened up the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out about this publicly, or even those who attended the meeting.
Damn.
I asked him, why was he involved with something so corrupt? And he replied, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we can do. No, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested as we walked back into the house. I remember word for word the last thing he said. It's out of my hands now. Just remember you signed an agreement. He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
So this meeting, bro.
Now that's a lot for a meeting right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and this person later on, he said, you know, this person actually ended up leaving the music industry after this happened. A few years after this, he ended up leaving the music industry.
Okay.
And he said he just, like, you know, over the years, he just felt guilty because he said as he sat back and he watched these plans come to a reality
Over 2 decades.
he sat back and was like, wow, they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
They really pulled this off. He was like, they were told not to sign any more political rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their
No
music.
positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out.
So if you wonder where
And this
Brand
was
Nubians
before
went,
us.
if you wonder where Brand Nubians went, where Poor Righteous Teachers went, where Public Enemy went, where KRS-One went, and all sorts of groups like that was talking,
Yeah.
even Queen Latifah and Moni Love and those, you know what I'm saying?
Everybody.
It's a back door.
Yeah, anything that was harmless, fun rap, you know, anything that had a message in it had to go.
Yeah, that's
You
why
know what
if
I'm
you
saying?
even notice though, now
And we
you
talk about that all the time.
even be brief with it, you know what I'm saying?
And when you look at the history of hip hop, right, and where it came from, you know, like Biz Markie, Public Enemy, all these, you know, all these people, it was dancing. It was never about fighting or murder. It was about partying, having fun. I mean, Public Enemy obviously was trying to uplift the community, telling the stories from the streets. And then you have people like Eazy-E and the West Coast movement, and talking. And again, because we went over this last time, right? Like, how much influence does hip hop have on the culture, and does it lead to more violence? Does it do these words lead to violence within the black community, the Latino community, the Latinx community? I'll never say Latinx. I was just saying it to make fun of it. In the Latino community, because this is where it came from. You know, this came from New York with South Bronx, Harlem. You know, the Latino and black community were on the side of the streets doing these rap battles and stuff. So, I mean, it's like it morphed. And there was a huge sea change from this Queen Latifah, even, like from this like positive party music to a very dark place, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Dre and Eazy-E and fucking Biggie and Tupac. All that gangster shit is the shit, okay? Not talking shit on this. But it's a very interesting subject, right? And so I saw this interview and I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. And then I started digging into it, and NPR, leave it to NPR, they actually did a whole series about this. I don't even think they bring up this. I know actual gangsters, and even if hip hop didn't exist, I'm sure they would still ended up doing what they're doing and shit. Yeah, obviously. But then you have other people who, my sister dated a thug, and the music that we were bumping was fucking Gin and Juice and The Chronic and all that shit. He had his stereos. He was selling weed. He thought he was big and bad. And fucking when we used to roll with him, it would be fucking, he would be listening to gangster rap. This was the music people are going on drive-bys to, okay? I've been in enough situations to know what kind of music goes down, and it gets ratchet, it gets violent, and people connect with that. I mean, even as a kid, as young teens, I would, with young angst, listening to, Marilyn Manson and Pantera and metal music and hip hop, that shit got me fucking Gene and Juice, rolling down the street, smoking endo, sipping on Gene and Juice, laid back with my mind on my memes and my money on my memes. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm listening to on the bus, bopping my... Dude, that shit is dope, though. It's good music. Ultra-violent. So we'll read a little bit of this. This is actually a podcast series, which I want to listen to this, honestly. This looks really fascinating. But now the story of hip-hop ascent from makeshift turn-up music slapped together by poor black and Latino kids in the South Bronx party to the dominant musical idiom of young people around the world is pretty well known, but less attention has been paid to how hip-hop continues to be shaped by another American phenomenon, the explosion of the carceral state. The connection is what Cindy Madden and Rodney Carmichael, our colleagues and play cousins at NPR, set out to answer in a brand new podcast, Louder Than a Riot. It's a show about race, music, criminal justice, and the tale of a wild conspiracy theory. This week, so over the past 40 years, the nation's prison population has exploded, and we've seen a ratcheting up of policing. Coincidentally, hip-hop was born in the late 70s, so these two things were overlapping phenomena. So how has mass incarceration shaped hip-hop? Carmichael, when you think about it from a pop culture standpoint, hip-hop was definitely before everything else in terms of commenting on and critiquing the criminal justice system and Black America's relationship to it. I love how you said the two phenomena in America, because these are strictly American born and bred pieces of societal ethos. The thing that we're trying to really spell out in our show is that these phenomena are not disparate. They intersect and intermingle a lot more than people think they do. As you said, hip hop was being birthed in the late 70s with Kool Herc and Sidney Campbell and the back to school parties, laying the foundation and blueprint of the counterculture moving to the center of becoming a pop culture. That happened literally at the same time as America was constructing what we now know as the prison industrial complex. It was physically building more private prisons. It was also psychologically calcifying and certifying what a criminal in America is, and doing that by working off the building blocks of the legacy of slavery in this country. So with all those things like marinating in the soup, there's so much to debate and unpack about it. What does a rapper look like? What is considered political rap? Who is allowed to have a voice in hip hop? And we'll sort of end it there with this. So that sort of setting up this idea, right? That there's a whole business behind this, and there's when you look a little bit deeper into the whole situation, I found it very interesting on how much these industries are connected. And yeah, no worries, Bon. So I started looking into it, right? And what's interesting is that there's a company called BlackRock and Vanguard who are the biggest investors in private prison. Oh, and look at that sweet angel there. She has to be on pills. Like this criminal right here is a fucking drug addict. Prison operators have been thrust into the spotlight recently since many of them run a controversial immigrant detention centers near the U.S. border. What does this have to do with it? Two of these companies, Cork Civic and Geo Group, are publicly traded, so many may hold them in an index fund or ETF as part of their portfolio retirement account. Vanguard and iShares, owner of BlackRock, are two of the largest holders of the Core Civic and Geo. So they're talking about the prisons down south, but they are also involved in the prisons all around the country. So BlackRock and Vanguard, if you guys don't know, they're also part of the WEF. Interestingly enough, they're part of the World Economic Forum, which we all know about the Great Reset. So these guys have sort of a stranglehold on the prison industrial complex. They're making lots of money off of it, right? And then, interestingly enough, Warner Music and BlackRock are investing $750 million in female and diverse artists. What is diverse artists? I wonder what that means. Lately, white male arena rock artists have really been cashing in on their back catalogs as they approach retirement age. But in a surprising pivot, Warner Music Group, at the third largest record label, has partnered with BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, on a new $750 million fund that will promote specifically female and diverse musicians. Mighty, thank you so much for that. Let me get you some love. Oh my God, what happened? Okay, hold on.
Hello, Mighty. This is Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I want to give you a huge thank you, a big old splits, and a as a thank you for all that you do for this channel.
Thank you, Mighty. Thank you, Robbie, for giving Mighty some love. So it's interesting, right, that BlackRock and Vanguard, which you always find those two names right next to each other, are both investors in music. They're both investors in prisons. Now, that got me thinking even further, right? So if they have this strange, so it's sort of this crazy scheme that sort of feeds itself, where you're turning out rappers, you're only promoting music that's violent, and you're promoting it to these underserved communities where people feel desperate enough to commit crimes to get by because as a country and our leaders have failed them and us. I mean, I come from that shit too. It failed us on all economic spectrums, our crumbling schools, crumbling neighborhoods. It's become very obvious that we've just sort of abandoned these neighborhoods. South Chicago. And so you got this music that's being produced and marketed to the people that you want in your prison system. You want, and again, the people who mostly are in prison right now are black and brown people, Latinos and black folks. And we all can agree that the industrial prison complex has become a slave mill, right? And so what it gets so much grosser than this. So you got to think that Vanguard and BlackRock are investing in music. They're investing in prisons. What else do they invest in? How else can they make money off of this? They're making money off the music. They're making money off the fans who promote the music for them, who also get themselves in trouble, end up in the prison system that they invested in, making more money. And these government subsidized prisons off of our government and our tax dollars, just stealing money. But also, so we also have a very interesting, so here are some major corporations that benefit from the prison industrial complex. Prison labor in the United States is referred to as insourcing under the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. Employers receive a tax credit of $2,400 for every work release inmate they employ as a reward for hiring risky target groups. The workers are not only cheap labor, but they are considered easier to control. They also tend to be African American males. Companies are free to avoid providing benefits like health insurance or sick days. They also don't need to worry about unions' demands for vacation time, raises, or family issues because they're in prison. Their family has been destroyed. According to the Left Business Observer, the federal prison industry produces 100% of all military helmets, war supplies, and other equipment. The workers supply 98% of the entire market for equipment, assemblies, services, 93% of paints and paintbrushes, headphones, microphones, speakers, 21% of office furniture, airplane parts, medical supplies. Prisoners are even raising seeing eye dogs for blind people. Now, I wonder how much BlackRock and Vanguard is invested in, I don't know, the war machine. I wonder how much. Let's see. BlackRock invest weapons. Let's see if they have a weapon. They have BlackRock Equity, a military weapon grade fund invested in major military contractors and or nuclear weapons above the threshold of 3%. Fund is invested in cluster munitions and manufacturers. So, yeah, does BlackRock invest in war? Yeah, the world's largest investor in weapons of war and climate chaos. Really interesting. But it gets more. We got more. There's more going on. McDonald's uses inmates to produce frozen foods. Inmates process beef for patties. They may also process bread, milk, chicken products. Also, I wonder how much they're invested in the healthcare system. Let's just take a look, shall we? BlackRock Healthcare. Oh, yeah, let's just see what comes up. Black Health Sciences, they're traded publicly. So there you go. Healthcare. They also make healthcare equipment. And then also, how about McDonald's? Does BlackRock invest in McDonald's as well? Because McDonald's uses them to package their flash frozen meat, if you can call it meat. Oh wait, I think I already pulled this one up. Well, I guess I didn't. So BlackRock, let's see, invest in McDonald's. Oh boy, look at that. 52, almost 53 million shares of McDonald's Corp they own. What about the next thing? Wendy's. Does BlackRock have investments in Wendy's? I bet they do. To the point where Zippy, what's up? Welcome in. Farm workers set up pressure on Wendy's shareholders to protect workers' rights. So not only Wendy's is out there, screwing people over, but they're also owned by hold on, let me just find this. So BlackRock is the largest monetary manager in the world, oversees $7.4 trillion in assets. Recently BlackRock's readership, sustainable corporate. Yeah, here we go. So BlackRock, here we go. BlackRock's big investment in Wendy's. BlackRock is the third largest shareholder in Wendy's. So again, what are we talking about? Deep state again? Kind of, because I feel like deep state is just owned by corporations anyway. So BlackRock, we're talking about how Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony did an interview where he talked about this really weird private meeting where he had to sign a non-disclosure agreement where they were talking to some business guy who was like, we want you guys to make more violent music because that violent music feeds our investments in private prisons. And private prisons here in America are funded by, in part, are subsidized by the government, and they get paid per prisoner. So they wanted these rappers, Crazy Bone, to rap about more violence so they can fill their prisons up. And so when you look into it a little bit further, you start seeing who owns these places. And what we're finding is BlackRock owns the music industry. BlackRock owns the industrial prison complex. They own a lot of the war machine that's going on. And all of these things are being made and produced by prisoners. Prisoners, including stuff for Wendy's, including stuff for McDonald's, which they are big investors in, as we can see here. Next is Walmart. Who wants to bet that BlackRock also has shares in Walmart? BlackRock ownership in Walmart. Blah, there it is. Almost 94 million shares in Walmart. And what do prisoners make in Walmart? Let's see, the company uses inmates for manufacturing purposes. The company hires inmates to clean products of UPC barcodes so that products can be resold. Snoop just did some deal with Walmart. Yeah, well, I'm sure you got to get paid. And I'm sure he's not trying to support a company that literally is making money off of all this. BlackRock Health, the money that people are spending because of the poor choices, like eating crappy McDonald's every day, is getting people big and fat over here. They end up with diabetes and heart disease, and then they have to go to the hospital. And who's making money off of all of that? They have literally capitalized off of slave labor, and in part are using fucking rap as a way to get more customers and more slaves, basically. It's just another angle, and it goes so much further and deeper than that. It's like it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. And then I wonder how much BlackRock is invested in Joe Biden. I wonder how much BlackRock is invested in Nancy Pelosi. It doesn't stop there. It just keeps going. And so who is actually owning, who runs what? To me, this is fucking wild. Sprint, I'm sure they own a piece of Victoria's Secret. They definitely own a piece of Victoria's Secret. Look, where is it? This is a Victoria's Secret Vanguard. Oh, this is Vanguard. So BlackRock and Vanguard, their passive income. This is some stock options. WHO and WHO. BlackRock and the WHO. Fact check. Video claiming BlackRock and Vanguard own the biggest corporations in the world is missing context. Get the fuck. See, and then you got these assholes who are doing fact checks, and I wonder who owns the fact checkers. Who owns Reuters? Let's see. BlackRock and invest in media. How a company called BlackRock shapes your news. The first fucking thing. The first thing. Warner and BlackRock, and yeah, okay, we know that. They invested in music and media. Yeah. They own the media too. they own the people who are, you know who else owns these news corporations? Fucking what are those produce weapons? Boeing owns some news organizations. BlackRock probably owns Boeing. What's the other one? Oh god, I can't remember all this. None of my thoughts are my own. They are all pre-programmed. There you go. I'm surprised that stuff is even on the first page of Google. Exactly, considering that Google deliberately hides stuff. Yeah, I wonder how much BlackRock is invested in Google. BlackRock has filed Securities Exchange Commission disclosing ownership 20.5 million shares of Alphabet Inc. Up and down the rabbit hole we go. So you got this company who's literally just, it's like this fucking echo loop, this echo chamber, or this fucking loop where they're creating the situation, and they're creating the solution, and overall it's just destroying everybody. And I guarantee that their investment in rap and wanting these rappers to rap more violently, I guarantee that there is a fucking that's a very small part of their investments. Yeah, independent news is where you gotta go. There's no going to Fox. There's no going to CNN. It's like there are things you can go and look there, but it's not anything that's ever, it's never going to be them speaking to power. It's always going to be them cupping the balls of power, and sometimes a story gets out that just gets so big that they can't ignore it. Like this Hunter Biden story with his laptop. There's no silencing that story. It's out. They silenced it. And most people think it's Russian propaganda, even though super liberal left newspaper, the New York Times, printed a story confirming that it was true. So, and I wonder how much BlackRock involved. Hold on, let's see. How much does BlackRock invest in the New York Times? I want to know. Let's see if they do it all. Oh, they shut down Google on me. The world's largest manager fired off a letter to the Attorney General of 19 states rebutting claims of the position. Okay, BlackRock seeks to defend its reputation over ESG, which is ridiculous too. So this is all as they should. They are like this guy has hit his limit of Google. Exactly. Like, listen, dude, we know what you're doing over here. Larry Fink, investment firm. So I don't know if they actually own it. Okay, BlackRock Inc. ownership in New York Times. Okay, look, they own almost 14 million shares in the New York Times. So there you go. They just own everything. And you can't tell me that there's not people who are sitting on boards, there's not business strategists, there's not people running numbers, running statistics. They're using psychiatrists, they're using psychologists to understand their products and the people they sell to. They're using so much research. They know what's going on. And I understand it's a big company and there's a lot of moving pieces. But yes, and Alex Jones, I love that globalist has become a term that's so common now. It's so common to hear the word globalist. And when at one point it was Alex Jones just yelling, "It's the globalists, they're turning the frogs gay." And then now it's like, this is it. That is what it is. So wait a second, BlackRock and the WHO. Let's see how they're invested together. It's like, you'll get fact checked, but the fact checkers are owned by the fucking people that they're writing about. BlackRock, one of the world's leaders, provides, okay. Let's see. What's the WHO? Where is it? I know that they have to have something. Something. Look, BlackRock Vanguard comes right up. Right up. Okay, this is better. All the people who told you that you're going to stop the spread if you get the shot at the WHO, even though they knew before the medication was released that it wasn't going to stop the spread. BlackRock, the fund invests globally, medical, what's BGF? BlackRock. Okay, so BlackRock World Health Science Fund. They probably fund the WHO. Contributors. Who does BlackRock own shares in? What is BlackRock Health? What products does BlackRock make? All right, so I'm not seeing anything in there about the WHO, but it's funny, because like when we're looking at companies like Pfizer who literally own shares or whatever in the CDC, what they fund the CDC. These are funders. Who does number 2 work for? Who's number 2? I don't know who number 2 is. I don't get it. I don't get it. So yeah, I'm really interested in this podcast, so I'm gonna definitely listen to this. It's from Austin Powers. Oh, okay. I don't even remember that reference. That's how fucking out I am of the whole. So if you guys want to listen to this podcast too, go ahead. I dropped the link in the chat so you guys can check it out if you want. But I don't know, man. This whole crazy bone thing, it just got me really digging. And I just, it blows my fucking mind how deep this shit goes. And I know, and again, it's a big company. They do a lot of investments in different things, but they definitely are very strategic with their money. They would be fools not to be strategic with their money. Oh, no worries. No worries. It's all good, Zippy Zipper. I understand. Work is work. You got to work. I'm not mad at you. Not mad at you. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that I'm just looking too far into this, or do you think there's something to it? I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. This is it kind of blows my mind a little. But it's just a working theory. A conspiracy theory. Hey guys, we finally did a music conspiracy. I know we've been on this Kanye thing for a while, but we've been wanting to do. Yeah, it's wild and it's widespread, and it's not widespread, but it's kind of an obtuse observation, I would say, because it's just so open-ended, with BlackRock. And even in my head, BlackRock, again, is this huge company. They're the largest investment firm in the world. So, of course, they got irons in many fires. But I could see in a boardroom, in a small room somewhere, making these huge decisions. It's kind of insane until you start following the trail. It's all good. I appreciate you. I know it's an odd time for you. Yeah. So, whatever. I still love gangster rap. I don't give a fuck. Gangster rap is the